Thank you so much. I want to thank the most important people in this room, and that's the people in the audience. Thank you for coming here. The most important message that I've got tonight is as follows. You are evidence that humans care. When a mare gives birth to a foal, the foal stumbles around awkwardly for about 20 minutes, gets up, and then starts cantering. With a human, we're helpless, hopeless, unless someone cares for us, correct? The basic message is that humans care, humans love, and humans have reasoning ability, although sometimes I wonder. But seriously, they're the traits of humans, and humans care. And the message we have been given relentlessly for years, for decades, is that you do not care. That's the message they're giving you. And I want to compliment Deborah for her speech, especially because she raised the aim of these people is wealth transfer, stealing from your pocket. The other one, there are two aims they have. The other one is control. Control of you, control over you, control of what you do, everything about the way you live, the way we live. Control and wealth transfer. And it's all based on the fundamental premise that humans are evil and uncaring and greedy and rapacious and irresponsible. Nothing is further from the truth. The main point tonight is that you care. The second main point is that you are on top of the constitutional situation in this country. You're at the head of the government in this country. When I say you, I mean we, the people, as citizens. The Constitution puts us paramount. I won't go into too much more detail there. But I want to thank you for being awake and to coming here, making an effort for our Australia, and also to note that we are together on the front line of an information war. You saw that right there with Deborah. I want to go on further with that. I want to say that despite the doomsayers, this is not over. The Digital Identity Bill is not over yet. We've had a petition that's had a fantastic response since the Senate since the Senate passing of the bill. We've also developed a plan for having a national protest right around the country. That'll be on May the 5th, I think it is. And I want to point out that we make mistakes sometimes as people, because Pauline and I are humans. And that mistake was in the cartoon that went out last week. Who watches the cartoons? That cartoon made two mistakes. They rarely make mistakes. They're very, very professionally done. Made two fundamental mistakes. It said that the Digital Identity Bill had been passed through the Senate. Wrong. Sorry, passed through the Parliament. Wrong. It has been passed through the Senate, but not through the House of Representatives. Now, the House of Representatives was scheduled to meet after the Senate rose on the Wednesday when the bill was passed through the Senate, because we believed that the Labor Party was going to take it from the Senate, put it into the House of Reps and pass it. They did not do that. Why? Because they were scared, because the people put up such a fuss. We've never seen a fuss like it in this country on social media. The Labor Party, the Greens, Pocock got belted. The Liberals introduced that bill into the Parliament 2 or 3 years ago. They voted with us against it because we embarrassed them into it. So I just want to say that it's not over. The other message, the other mistake in the cartoon is that they said, "What can we do about it?" Nothing. No, we can do a hell of a lot about it. A hell of a lot. And when you see what I've got to say, you will want to do a hell of a lot about it. Let's start. Who trusts government? There's your answer, right? The director's identity, who's had to fill out that? Saw a massive widening of the scope beyond the legislation and the regulations. No one did anything through Parliament, but we were told that you need 2 or 3 pieces of information. We ended up putting through 6. So I checked with our team, and they said, no, that's wrong. Nowhere had it been passed through Parliament. Nowhere in the regulations. They just instituted that, like that. The LNP, as I said, introduced this bill and associated bills that I'll discuss below. It's not just the digital identity bill, it's so many other bills put together. There are minor differences with the Labor's bill that's been introduced and passed through the Senate. When it was introduced by Morrison and Littleproud, or might have been Barnaby Joyce at the time, I belted it. And some of my videos went around the world. Craig Kelly was a member of the Liberal Party. He smashed it inside his own party room. So I wonder how many of the Nats knew, how many of the Liberals knew, how many supported it, how many had conviction about it. Next point I want to make is that this bill went through the Senate with not one word of debate. Not one word of debate. The Greens, the Labor Party, David Van, and I think one other person, guillotined it so that they cut off all debate. It was put through at the second last bill on 9 bills in a row. No debate. So you did not see any scrutiny exercised by us over the Labor Party for that bill. Not one. They're afraid to debate because they know the bill's ramifications. There were amendments raised. No debate. No explanation. In your parliament. In our parliament. They told you that. That's what they did. The Labor Party, the Greens, David Pocock, Jackie Lambie, they voted for the bill. And after previously saying, Pocock had said, we need to debate this bill, you can't deal with it without debate. He passed it. We'll talk more about that later. So there were amendments made with no debate, no scrutiny. The committee itself, when a bill comes into the Senate, it's sent to a committee to assess, to do an inquiry on it. The committee ignored overwhelming evidence that said it was a trashy bill. It should be trashed. Ignored it. And so even the committee did not do its job. Labor-run committee. So what is this bill? It's a legislation, it's a framework for permanent and expansive digital identity of all Australian citizens, every one of us. Digital ID acts as a master ID, joining previously disconnected government databases. They were all in little silos, each department. Now they're just going to be joined together. One massive data and information hub. And your personal private details will be in there and accessible to 350,000 public servants. With no privacy assurances over the top. Even the Greens said that they wanted privacy to be built into it. But no, the Labor Party said, trust us, it'll come later. So it tears down silos between departments. It'll mean that Centrelink can see veteran service status, vaccine status, tax return, NDIS records. No privacy. Anyone in government will get to know everything about each and every one of us. And they'll be able to use it to withhold services. You want that service? Get on to digital ID. Tax returns. And then if you breach anything like tax returns, parking fines, social media comments, health data, purchases of all types, and I'll explain more about that in a minute, then you don't get what you want. So MyGov already links driver's licenses, passports, Medicare card, vaccination record, and now the digital ID links all government data related to each of us, all of it, and makes it accessible. The future amendments of the Digital ID Bill are already in discussion to pair the government data, this massive database, with private sector data for companies, such as purchasing records, to create what they call a rich digital view of every aspect and every person. All records, what you buy, every purchase, finances, health records, travel and movements, social media comments, assets owned. You own an SUV? Well, you can't get a house loan because you're pumping out too much carbon dioxide. Food eaten, education. Some of these things are being done in England right now. They're creating for each of us a digital entity, and it's terrifying. So let's get into the specifics of the bill. The bill will enable law enforcement, the police, to access every piece of information on your file to investigate a breach of speech laws, for example, if you break the speech laws. without a warrant. Without a warrant. Basic protections, just shot. Government can access your whole file if you say something the government does not like. And we'll get to that. You'll see the significance of that in a minute. Even a minor fine like an administrative issue or submitting a late tax return or not paying a parking fine can give them the grounds for chasing you on other issues. If you attend a street protest, facial recognition can be used against you. That went through under Labor and the Greens and Pocock just a few months ago. So they have your facial recognition, the car you drive, everything about you. No disagreement with the government will be allowed. And what about hacking? It increases the risk of security breaches because everything about you is in your digital ID, the entity that they've created for you. Where are the worst breaches of security for data security? Government and big tech. And most of those breaches are human error, not code. Sometimes it's malicious, but most of them are human error. So do you trust the Federal Public Service to keep your data safe? No. Privacy laws to stop them doing these things have not yet been written. There's no protection. They've just been promised. And the Greens themselves have raised that. Just like the Director's ID, unauthorised widening of scope can come along and it's so easy. They can trade your data. The government can sell your data or give access to it to their big business mates because all are linked to the same data. Then they might ask, were you sick on a certain day? Well, how can we see you in your car going down the street doing this? Did you buy a certain item? You've got an SUV. We're not going to give you a house loan. The Commonwealth Bank is already talking about social credit terms, but they don't use those words, of course, to link up with climate. And then when they sell your health data and store it in a foreign country without the same security laws and same privacy laws, if you want access to your health data, you'll have to pay for it. This is where they're coming to. Now let's have a look at how it'll work with other bills. So it'll give very powerful control and wealth transfer. The Identity Verification Bill went through under Labor's watch just a few months ago. It was introduced by the LNP as a discussion paper under Morrison. That enables them to use biometric data to create your digital identity. And you don't have to authorise it every time they put a camera on you. Just once. And that could be in the terms of conditions that you have sometimes in various services. Might be buried down in that, but you've given permission. Who reads them? No one. Digital ID, the LNP introduced under Morrison. The Misinformation Disinformation Bill, it's a censorship bill, was introduced under Morrison. Labor Party brought it in. We kicked up such a fuss about it. We held a conference in Brisbane, eminent speakers from around the country. We were very strong in our public and Senate comments about it, that Labor sent it to a committee. They're working on a digital currency. I asked questions of the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank didn't appear in Senate estimates until I got there in 2016 and wanted them. They said they don't appear. I won't go into the story on that. When I came back in 2019, they weren't there again. So I demanded them to come back, and they came back after a fight with Matthias Cormann, the finance minister. But we got them. Now, under my questioning, the Reserve Bank admitted that they're developing a digital currency. That was introduced, that research was done under Morrison's watch. And it'll be programmable digital currency. It'll track your consumption data, petrol use, for example, what sort of fuel you use. It'll be programmed to expire so that you won't have any savings. Why do they do that? Because anybody control, exactly. Anybody with savings can't be controlled. Anybody with cash can't be controlled. They get rid of cash, that's what they want to do, and they get rid of savings. Right now, the Reserve Bank has built, and I think it may have been flogged off, but it does exist, the new payments platform. It's a node through which every financial transaction in this country goes through. Every financial transaction. Every financial transaction that's electronic goes through that node. They know what you're buying, how often you're doing it. But, good news, Jewel, the digital identity is voluntary. Just like COVID injections were voluntary. You just won't, and the director's ID, you just won't be able to access government services, access funds, travel, education. This is an example of the COVID Uni-Party, Labor and Liberal, state and federal, work together to bring in voluntary injections. So it's already had a precedent. But I want to say again, the digital ID is alive as an issue. It's not dead. It is alive. It still has to go through the House of Representatives. On the Wednesday it went through the Parliament. It was just before Easter. On Thursday, I was pretty upset. I was angry. I was seething. Just a complete middle finger to all the people of Australia. But when I walked into our office in Brisbane on Thursday morning, the next morning, after flying back late that night, I was really happy because our office had reminded me it hadn't been in the House of Representatives. And they also pointed out that Katie Gallagher, for example, the finance minister who introduced the digital identity bill into the Senate, was hammered on social media. Comments scathing. Anyone seen it? Yeah. 300,000 views in 23 hours or something like that. 300,000 views, thousands of comments, and 350 likes. She got belted. David Pocock posted on X or Twitter that he did not vote for the guillotine. True, David, but you did not mention once that you voted for the bill. Why? Because you're ashamed of it and you know the public are backlashing. That's why. What I'm telling you is that the people on social media in this country stood up and Labor is worried. So we can put a lot of pressure on the Labor government. The cash ban bill was introduced by Morrison into the lower house 20, can't remember exactly when, but the Labor Party voted for it. The Uni Party voted for it to go through the House of Representatives. It came to the Senate. We kicked up such a fuss. We got the crossbench aligned. We got the Greens aligned. We started really talking to the Labor Party saying they can't support this. It's against what their members want. We connected with the grassroots members of the Liberal and Labor Party. That bill was sent to a Senate inquiry. And it stayed, and it stayed, and it stayed, and it stayed in the inquiry. Eventually I moved a motion to get rid of it. And they got rid of it. Now that was not because of me. That was because of you. Members of the Labor and Liberal Party put so much heat on their representatives. And I want to compliment Deborah because that is what the people of Australia need to do. We need to stand up and work as individual citizens, as teams of citizens. That is fundamental to getting democracy back. If you don't have citizens active in it, you don't have a democracy. That's what we don't have a democracy. So One Nation has done our bit well and truly in leading the charge against digital ID for about the last 2-3 years. And lately, in the last few weeks, the people have stirred. And that day, Wednesday night and Thursday, the people roared. Many of you calling MPs after the video went out that I did. David Pocock, as I said, looks very severely afraid of being seen to have voted for it. Labor's been shaken, and we know that it didn't get to the House of Representatives, so it's not gone through the Parliament yet. So we need to keep the fight up. One Nation, as I said, is running a petition. Please sign it. Go to the One Nation webpage and sign the petition. It's already growing very, very quickly, and we're organising a protest for the people on May the 5th, Sunday, I think it is. And the Liberals, who introduced the bill, were sitting next to me and Pauline. I was sitting there with Ralph Babet on one side and Pauline on the other side, and I said, "Look at this, Pauline. The Liberals are coming in on our side." They introduced the bill because they were scared of the backlash. Not all of the Liberals were there, though. Some were too ashamed to be voting no. The woke. The Liberals have a problem. But you are the key. You are the key to this. Be respectful, be firm, be determined, do exactly what Deborah said. Call them up, persist. Who pays their wage? Who pays our wages? You do. Who's my boss? You are. It's not Pauline. She's the leader of the party. You are. And so remind the Liberals, remind the Labor Party that you are in charge because you are under our Constitution. Be respectful, be firm, be determined. This is about keeping our country alive, restoring our country. I think I've gone over most of the... I've told them that. So it was a coalition of the Labor, Greens, Teals, which David Pocock is a Teal, Jackie Lambie Network, David Van, the senator, former Liberal senator from Victoria, all voted for the digital ID bill. Some voted for the guillotine. Why would you ram it through Parliament without debate? Is it because it puts us on the speed slide to big government? Yes, just like communist China. Is it because big business mates get data on the people of Australia? Yes, Jeff Bezos wants to be in control. Is it because BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, First State, etc. own the controlling chunk of many major corporations in this country? And they control the government. Who owns Coles? Significant shares in Coles, Woolies, Qantas, all four banks. We don't have four banks. We have one bank owned by those same predatory companies behind four logos. That's what we have in this country. Vanguard and the others tell the government to jump, both Labor and Liberal, both sides of the Uni Party, and they jump. And that's why we've got to wake people up, exactly as Deborah, and that's why I've got to compliment Jewel again. What you're doing, not only in the message voting matters, but in informing people is so critical. But it's up to everyone in this room to go and tell half a dozen, 10, as many people as you want. Wake people up. I'm talking to someone before, and she's explained how she's woken up her family. So that's what it needs. I think I've covered most of these points. So remember, the misinformation, disinformation bill, censorship bill, was introduced by Morrison's government. It's been reintroduced by the Labor Party. And Fletcher, the communications minister under Morrison, criticised it. He was the one who introduced it. This is what they're doing. They're playing a game. And we're the bunnies. So this is, when you put all those bills together, the identity verification, able to use your biometrics, digital currency, getting rid of cash. The banks, well, I'll answer questions. I haven't got time to talk about it now. What they want is to put in a framework for a social credit system. They're already talking about it. That takes us back to communism, takes us back to feudalism, takes you and I back to being serfdom. Pauline and I tried repeatedly to remove the guillotine, remove the digital identity bill from the guillotine, but we just got voted down. Imagine what would have happened with just one more One Nation senator. That bill would have been stopped. Just one. So here's how to contact your MPs. Tell them how to vote in the House of Representatives against the digital identity bill. Just Google House of Representatives members. House of Representative members. You'll get onto a page that says Parliament of Australia members. Click on members. That'll take you to another page, and down that page you'll find search members. Enter your postcode. That's all you have to do. Deborah, I'm sure, can tell you as well. But this goes beyond digital ID and social credit systems and control. Most young people today, I'm talking about those aspiring to a house or were aspiring to a house, think that you can go, you put your work in through education, you work hard, do the right thing, study, get a job, buy a house, marry, have children. Our young adults today are telling me repeatedly that is a lie. They have been sold a lie. We've got people in Ipswich, several places in Ipswich, Logan, Brisbane, Beaudesert, sleeping in cars, in tents, in caravans, being shopped around, shipped around. losing their kids over it sometimes, losing their kids over it, sleeping in cars. And we're talking about people, families, who have a job, mother and father both going to work every day. Where do they toilet? Where do they shower? This is Australia. And you know why they're doing that? Because the Liberal Party and the Labor Party do not want to be targeted with the tag that says, we caused the recession. Australia has been in per capita recession now for years. Per capita, we're having negative growth. We've been in a recession. But when they flood the joint with migrants, it bumps up the gross domestic product. They're not in recession. They are doing this deliberately in a cold, calculated way without a single care for anyone in this room or anyone sleeping under a bridge, in a tent, in a caravan, whether it's Gladstone, Mackay, Townsville, Cairns. And young people are living in despair of ever getting a house, ever having a family. So all I can do is end it there and just say I'm happy to take questions. But I'm begging you, please, to avoid returning to feudalism and communism, be active citizens, not just at elections, not just thinking when we vote, between elections, as Deborah said, go and visit your MP, go and telephone your MP. Don't bother with emails. They don't even watch them, unless you flood them with them. Written letters, personal visits, telephone calls, and don't give up. It took, your example, 12 months for someone to get in. That is really being a citizen. And the other thing we'd ask you to do is spread the word. Spread the word, educate people. Restore MPs to have respect for you, because they don't have respect for you at the moment. Tell them that we, the people, are in charge. Thank you.